Welcome to our US Briefing Show. Today, we've got a lively lineup of stories to share with you. First up, the India-US trade dispute is heating up. Tariffs on Indian goods have skyrocketed to 50%, shaking up their historic friendship and threatening hundreds of thousands of jobs, especially in textiles and jewelry. Despite the tension, there's still hope for a deal as India aims to restore trade relations and leverage alliances against China. Next, we turn to a legal showdown at the Federal Reserve. Lisa Cook, a Fed governor, is suing to keep her position after President Trump tried to fire her over unproven mortgage fraud allegations. This case not only questions her removal but also raises big concerns about the independence of the Fed and its crucial role in stabilizing the economy. Finally, in the Pacific, Russia and China have made history by conducting their first joint submarine patrol, boosting military cooperation and regional stability. This powerful partnership signals a new era of collaboration in the region, with both nations keeping a close eye on strategic routes and security threats. Please continue to watch for more detailed insights. Deutsche Welle reports that the United States and India are embroiled in a tense trade dispute that threatens to reshape their strategic alliance. Once marked by warmth and high-level diplomacy, their relationship has soured as U.S. tariffs on Indian goods have soared to 50%, one of the highest rates globally. This escalation followed the U.S.'s rejection of trade negotiations and Trump's imposition of additional tariffs on Russian oil purchases from India. The consequences are stark. India faces a potential 40% decline in exports to the U.S. by 2026, risking hundreds of thousands of jobs, especially in textiles and jewelry sectors. While India's economy is relatively small, the impact on its manufacturing ambitions, particularly the Make in India initiative, could be significant, stifling growth at a critical juncture. Conversely, the U.S., though suffering less economically, faces geopolitical repercussions, including a possible decline in Indian students and a diminished role for India as a manufacturing alternative to China. Experts suggest that a deal might still be possible, driven by India's desire to secure a win and counterbalance China's rise, but the current climate underscores a fragile relationship fraught with strategic and economic uncertainty. CNN details the legal confrontation surrounding Lisa Cook, a Federal Reserve governor, whose position is threatened by President Trump's attempt to oust her amid unproven mortgage fraud allegations. Cook's lawsuit challenges the president's authority, arguing that her removal based on unfounded accusations undermines the independence of the Fed, a uniquely insulated institution. The case highlights the broader tension between political influence and central bank autonomy, especially as the Supreme Court has historically protected the Fed from political interference. Trump's move to dismiss Cook, citing mortgage fraud claims linked to her properties, is seen by legal experts as politically motivated, aiming to replace her with a Trump appointee to sway monetary policy. The outcome of this high-stakes legal battle could set a precedent for the future independence of the Fed, raising questions about the politicization of financial institutions and the potential erosion of their independence during a politically charged era. South China Morning Post reports that Trump's administration is intensifying efforts to combat Chinese money laundering linked to the fentanyl trade, urging U.S. banks to scrutinize Chinese nationals with unexplained wealth who may be working with Mexican drug cartels. The Treasury Department warns that underground banking networks are facilitating currency exchanges to bypass Chinese capital controls, often involving students, retirees, and housewives with suspicious funds. A recent investigation uncovered a partnership between Mexico's Sinaloa cartel and Chinese underground banks laundering millions from drug sales, highlighting the transnational scope of illicit financial flows. Amid this crackdown, Trump has emphasized the importance of allowing 600,000 Chinese students into U.S. universities, despite concerns over their potential involvement in money laundering activities. The report underscores the growing complexity of financial crimes tied to drug trafficking, human trafficking, and illicit capital flows, illustrating the ongoing challenge for U.S. authorities to balance economic interests with national security concerns. The South China Morning Post vividly captures a historic moment as Russian and Chinese submarines embark on their first joint patrol in the Pacific, symbolizing a deepening military alliance amid a series of coordinated exercises. The Russian Pacific Fleet's diesel-electric Focke-Wulf, along with a Chinese submarine, navigated a strategic route through the Sea of Japan and the East China Sea, covering 2,000 nautical miles in a mission that underscores their shared goal of strengthening naval cooperation. These maneuvers, including artillery fire, anti-submarine, and air defense drills, are set against the backdrop of a grand military parade in Beijing, attended by President Vladimir Putin, emphasizing the significance of their alliance in countering Western influence. The involvement of submarines, long regarded as secretive and classified, highlights the seriousness with which both nations are advancing their strategic partnership, especially as they expand operations into the Arctic and conduct joint aerial patrols across the Pacific, signaling their intent to safeguard maritime routes and bolster regional stability. Meanwhile, the Associated Press reports on the contentious closure of Florida's Alligator Alcatraz, a newly built immigration detention center in the Everglades, which has become a flashpoint of legal and environmental battles. A Miami federal judge refused to halt her order mandating the shutdown of the facility, despite the federal government's appeals, citing concerns over environmental harm and legal violations. The facility, hastily constructed with over $245 million in state contracts and opened just last July, has been marred by allegations of severe operational problems, including detainees held without charges and denied access to legal resources. Civil rights advocates and the Miccosukee tribe argue that the site threatens fragile wetlands and violates environmental laws, while critics like President Donald Trump have touted it as a model for future deportation centers. The ongoing legal saga underscores the clash between immigration enforcement ambitions and environmental preservation, with multiple lawsuits exposing troubling conditions and procedural issues at the site, casting a shadow over the administration's broader immigration policies. Finally, the AP details the U.S. government's expanding efforts to deport migrants to African nations under secretive agreements, with Rwanda emerging as the latest recipient. 7 deportees arrived in Rwanda earlier this month, with some expressing a desire to stay and build new lives, while others seek to return to their homelands. This move follows similar clandestine deals with South Sudan and Eswatini, where the U.S. has sent individuals labeled as dangerous criminals, despite limited transparency about their identities or criminal histories. These arrangements are part of a broader strategy to curb migration, often driven by political considerations, as highlighted by critics who accuse the U.S. of sacrificing human rights for diplomatic gains. Countries like Uganda have also agreed to accept deportees, with their governments framing the deals as opportunities to improve relations with Washington, even as human rights concerns and the legality of such transfers remain deeply contested. The covert nature of these deportations underscores the complex geopolitics at play, revealing a controversial chapter in America's immigration enforcement policies. The Associated Press reports a groundbreaking legal battle involving Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, who has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration to prevent her dismissal, marking an unprecedented challenge to the Fed's political independence. Trump's attempt to fire Cook, citing unsubstantiated allegations of mortgage fraud from before her appointment, has ignited a debate over the legal grounds for removing a Fed governor. The lawsuit argues that her firing lacks the cause required by law, especially since she has not been charged with any crime, and highlights the potential threat to the Fed's autonomy if political forces can influence its leadership based on policy disagreements or unproven allegations. This legal confrontation unfolds amid ongoing tensions between the White House and the Federal Reserve, with Trump criticizing Fed Chair Jerome Powell's interest rate policies and seeking to appoint loyalists who favor lower rates, thereby risking the institution's ability to act independently during economic fluctuations. In Tokyo, the Associated Press highlights a historic moment in Japan-UK security relations as the Royal Navy's aircraft carrier HMS Prince of Wales arrives in Japan, marking the first foreign carrier to dock in the city. Defense ministers from both nations celebrated their deep strategic alignment, emphasizing a new level of cooperation as part of the UK's broader engagement in the Indo-Pacific region. The visit underscores the strengthening of military ties, including joint efforts on advanced defense projects like the Global Combat Air Program, which aims to develop a next-generation fighter jet by 2035. Japan, seeking to diversify its security partnerships beyond the United States, is actively enhancing its deterrence capabilities against regional threats, notably China's assertiveness. The deployment of the F-35B fighter on a Japanese aircraft carrier during recent multinational exercises exemplifies this deepening cooperation, signaling a significant step forward in the strategic partnership between Tokyo and London. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6do Brief via email.